Hi, welcome to Budget MTG Decks. All magic fun, all cards under $1. I'm David.
I'm Stefan.
And today we're going to do something very exciting. We're going to be looking at all the new cards, all the white cards for Shadows over Innistrad. I'm really excited for this set. You?
Yeah, it's a really faithful set. I really like it, and today we're going to look at the set and review it and evaluate the cards based on limited, so draft and sealed.
Exactly. We're going to be using our own tier system. It's a very simple system, but it should give you enough information to make some decisions while you're playing your first games with the set. It works on 3 levels. First level is Tier 1. A Tier 1 card is an awesome bomb. It's unconditional removal. It's going to be the card that when you pull it, you're going to say, yes, I am definitely going to go in this color because it is so awesome and it's going to be so strong. And it's going to win me the game. Tier 2 cards are also very good, but by themselves don't make you go into that color. If you already know you're in a particular color, the Tier 2 cards of that color are going to be auto-include. So for example, if you already know you're going to be in white and you pull a Tier 2 card in white, you're going to say that one's definitely going to go in there. And finally, we have Tier 3. These are the cards that are filler cards. If you already built your deck and you've got a few holes in your mana curve, you need a couple of 2-drops, maybe 1 4-drop, then you're going to be looking into those Tier 3 cards to fill out your deck, make sure you got a nice even mana distribution for a nice balanced deck. All the other cards, we're going to put those aside. Situational, right?
Yeah, sideboard, things that you can't really use because they're too narrow, and yeah.
Or you might need them, you might only use them when you're playing a particular synergy, you got all the other pieces. So we're going to be putting those aside for this review. Well, that is it, so let's start with the common cards. Our first card is Throbbin Inspector. Now for 1 white mana, we get a 1/2, so he's got a bigger butt than we would expect. It's a human soldier, which is relevant because humans, well, there's a lot of humans in this set. And it states that when Throbbin Inspector enters the battlefield, investigate. Now, we haven't seen this mechanic before, so I'll just explain it. When you investigate, you put a colorless clue artifact token onto the battlefield, and we can sacrifice this guy, this artifact, for 2 mana, and then we get to draw a card. So it's kind of like you get to draw a card, but you do still need to pay 2 mana for it. Pretty cool. However, I would say Tier 3, this card. So it's an okay filler card, but I wouldn't be too excited to play it. You?
No, you don't want to auto-include it. It's something, it's fun, but...
Exactly. Yeah, just so Tier 3, it's an okay filler.
So the next card, Chaplin's Blessing. It's a 1 white, sorcery, and you gain 5 life, which isn't that great.
What do you mean isn't that great? This is downright terrible.
Yeah.
This is the most terrible card in the entire set, most likely. It doesn't change the board state. It doesn't help you do anything. Yeah, it's just no, put it aside.
Put it aside.
Yeah? Alright. Then we have the next card, Stern Constable. For 1 mana, we get a 1/1 human soldier. This guy gets to tap, and then we have to discard a card, and then we get to tap target creature. Now you may think, hey, it's great to tap creatures because then we can attack or they can't block. However, we do have to untap this guy, and we also have to discard a card, which is kind of a steep cost, I feel like, if we've been looking at other cards in the past, like Gideon's Lockkeeper.
Yeah, they only tap to tap a creature, but...
Or pay a mana.
Exactly. Yeah. But it does some things with the other cards in the set, but still, put it aside.
Put it aside, yeah. If you really want to be going for the mechanic, which is Madness, it might have a place, but for the rest, just put it aside.
So the next one is Strength of Arms. It's 1 white instant, and target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. And if you control equipment, you get a 1/1 white human soldier. And it's not that great. You have to have equipment to get a soldier, but it's also still a combat trick. Gets you +2/+2.
Yeah, I would also say let's put this one in Tier 3 because I'm not too excited to play it, but if you don't have a lot of good removal as a combat trick, it is pretty decent. I mean, for 1 mana, they wouldn't really expect that, and its +2/+2 is really going to allow you to trade well, or even just have them lose a creature and your creature will survive. So I'll probably include it if I don't have good dedicated removal.
Yeah, it's a good removal. It trades up, so
yeah,
that's also nice.
Then we have Town Gossip Monger. For 1 mana, we get a 1/1 human, and we get to tap this guy. Then we also have to tap another untapped creature, and then we get to transform Town Gossip Monger. Now let's flip this card over. Now we see that it has become Incited Rabble. It is a 2/3, and Incited Rabble attacks each combat if able, so that's the downside. It has to attack. But it has Fire Breathing for 2 mana, which is pretty cool because in essence, we can put this guy down turn 1, and then turn 2 we could play another creature, then we can tap this guy and tap the other creature. Remember, the other creature is not tapping itself, so it doesn't matter that I have Summoning Sickness because Town Gossip Monger taps the other creature. Then immediately it would turn into a 2/3, and well, it wouldn't be able to attack that turn because it's still tapped, but then as of that point in time afterwards, it would be able to attack with the Fire Breathing as well, making it a 3/3 or maybe even a 4/3 in the turns after that.
Yeah.
So tier 2, I guess, in white.
Yeah, it's a fun card. What I really like is, even though Fire Breathing is red, it turns into a red card. It's only 2 general mana.
Yeah.
To pay for it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So if you're already in white, then I would definitely include this card because 2/3 on turn 2 would be nothing to sniff at, even if it does have to attack every turn. Then next one is Moreland Drifter for 2 mana. It's a 2/2 spirit, and it has 2/2 for 2 is just fine, right? Yeah. But it also has Delirium. Now we haven't had Delirium yet, so I'll just explain that one. Delirium is if there's 4 or more card types among the cards in your graveyard, then you basically have Delirium. And so that means you have to have either a land, or we have to have a land, a creature, an enchantment, and an artifact, for example. There's more types, but if you have at least 4, then you have Delirium, and then your card does something special. And in this case, if you have that, then it has flying. So then you would have a 2/2 flyer for 2, which is really, really strong. But then you do have to activate Delirium. What are the odds of that happening, Stefan?
Depending on the deck, if you're playing white, not that much.
No, right? No. But then again, a 2/2 for 2 still would allow it to become in tier 3.
Yeah,
it's a bear card, right?
It's a bear which can fly.
Could fly. Yeah. He believes it can fly. Just that's the question. Maybe later on in the game it will fly.
So the next one is Unruly Mob. It's a 1 and a white. It's a human creature, and it's a 1/1. But whenever another creature you control dies, you get a +1/+1 counter for Unruly Mob, of course. So it's a decent creature. I would like to play it, and we're playing limited, so a lot of creatures would die.
Yeah,
I assume.
That's true. Yeah, a lot of creatures will die. Unfortunately, those will have to be your creatures. But still, if it comes in turn 2, well, you're not... Naturally, I'd rather have a 2/2, but this guy is going to be growing during the course of the game, and people are going to have to shoot some kind of removal at it, because afterwards, once it grows to 4/4, 5/5, they're not going to be able to kill it in combat anymore. So it will eat removal, and that for a common card, I would say if you're playing white, then definitely include it. I would say tier 2.
Yeah, tier 2.
The next card, Devil Thorn Fox. For 2 mana, we have a 3/1 with no abilities, but a 3/1 coming down on turn 2 is okay in my book, and that's why I would say this is a tier 3 card.
Yeah. Nothing to add.
Nothing to add to that. All right, next card.
Vessel of Etheria. It's a 1 and a white enchantment. For 2 and a white, you have to sacrifice it, and you get 2 1/1 spirit tokens on the battlefield.
So what do you think about that?
I don't really like it because for 5 mana, you get 2 1/1 spirit tokens.
Yeah, I would definitely put that aside. It's too expensive for what you get.
Yeah.
Next card is Puncturing Light for 2 mana. We have an instant that says destroy target attacking or blocking creature with power 3 or less. It's very cheap. It also is situational in the sense that it can only target something with power 3 or less, but there's going to be plenty of stuff like that. Flyers, for example, are not going to have much higher toughness or power. Unblockable creatures that are difficult to block are also going to have power less than 3 or equal to 3. So it's going to be able to do a lot of work, and I would really definitely include it if I'm in white. So I would say tier 2.
Yeah. Removal, always good.
Always good, yeah.
So next one, Expose Evil. 1 and a white instant, tap up to 2 target creature, and it has Investigate. So it's a thing that, kind of
gives your tempo a little bit of a boost, I suppose.
it doesn't do much. It taps 2 creatures, they untap again, and you get a clue.
Best case scenario, you tap 2 creatures of your opponents in their turn so they can't attack, and in your turn they can't block. You could pay 2 mana to draw a card from your clue. You know, I would say just put it aside and save your cards for some better removal.
Yeah.
Then we have Angelic Purge for 3 mana. It's a sorcery. It states that as an additional cost to Angelic Purge, sacrifice a permanent. That's a pretty big downside. But then it states exile target artifact, creature, or enchantment. Now the versatility is huge. Well, we're probably going to use it to destroy or to exile a creature. And for 3 mana, that is really, really big. You do have to sacrifice a permanent. That could be either a tiny little guy that you're not using anymore, a token, or it could be later on in the game when you're mana flooded. It could be a land, or it could even be in a pinch one of your clues that you might think, okay, this is totally worth it to get rid of it. Let's put it this way. The downside is pretty big, that you have to sacrifice a permanent. But if you absolutely positively need to get rid of something, this is the card that's going to make it happen, and you're going to be happy that you were able to do it with this card. So I would say if you're in white, tier 2.
Yeah, I mean, it kills everything, and for a small part, it adds a sorcery plus something else in your graveyard for Delirium.
Yeah.
So the next one, Attilio Guidance. 2 and a white, sorcery, creatures you control get +2/+1 until end of turn. It's a sorcery. I don't really like the combat trick which are sorceries.
It's not really a trick because people see it coming a mile away.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I want to put it aside because it's a nice swing, but everyone knows
all it is going to be is a life swing.
Yeah.
That's all it's going to be. And you know what? As we know, when you're playing Magic and you're going to be a good player, we know that life is not that important. Life is not that important. It matters about your board presence, how many cards you can have, but life is secondary. The only time life matters when you got none left anymore. But everything before that, you're going to be still okay. You can still win the game with 1 life. You can still win the game with 20 life. It doesn't matter. So just put this card aside, do yourself a favor, and get some real big boy or big girl removal. Then we have the next card, Survive the Night for 3 mana. It's an instant. Target creature gets +1/+0 and gains indestructible till the end of turn. Now this one's a little bit, and it also has Investigate. This card is a little bit better than Ethereal Guidance because it's instant speed. On the other hand, it only does it for 1 of your creatures. Sure, you can protect that, but you're still paying 3 mana. Sure, there are some situations where it could be beneficial, but I would say it's a filler card, tier 3. I suppose we did this review analyzing it together with Ruud as well. Ruud said, yeah, I will definitely play it. I said, I would definitely not play it. Save him.
Yeah, it has some benefits, so I'm a bit on the edge, but I'm like tier 3.
So we're going to give it a solid tier 3, but we don't all agree with each other, so that's great. So what's the next card?
Dauntless Casa. It's a 2 and a white creature, human soldier, and it's a 3/2 soldier, by the way, and 1 and a white, exile Dauntless Casa from your graveyard. So it actually does something when it dies, and what it does is put a 1/1 white spirit token with flying onto the battlefield. But you can only activate it anytime you cast a sorcery.
Boo. That's a shame. That would have been nice to be able to do that during combat.
Yeah, I mean,
surprise block.
End of turn, just activate your mana that you have left
it open.
But it's a sorcery speed. But nonetheless, it's a good card.
Yeah, so just already the fact for 3 mana, it's a 3/2, so that's going to be able to do quite a bit. And the other part of being able to get an extra 1/1 flyer on top of that is just extra gravy. You say if you're playing white, go for it, tier 2. Then we have Cathars Companion for 2 and a white. So for 3 mana, we get a 3/1. You know, I kind of liked it better when the 3/1s, I had to pay 2 mana for them, but sure. Let's see what it says. It's a hound, and when you cast a non-creature spell, Cathars Companion gains indestructible until the end of turn. So this in combination with a combat trick or an instant speed removal spell could be a giant blowout. It could be huge. On the other hand, if you don't have those spells, then you're just overpaying for your 3/1s, which could die to a 1/1. That would be really pathetic. So very hesitant to see whether we would include it, so we've put it in as tier 3 as a filler card.
Yeah. So the next card, Malignant Inquisitor. It's a 2 and a white, human cleric at 2/3. Malignant Inquisitor gets +1/+0 for each equipment you control. So it's a decent card. I mean, 2/3 for 3, but equipment. So I would say tier 3 because you won't have many equipments.
No, we're gonna look at those equipment cards later on in the multicolored artifacts and lands episode. But in the meantime, we can tell you that the equipment is not that impressive. So you're not gonna be building an equipment white colored equipment deck. That's not gonna happen. Sure, you can have a few, but nonetheless, for 3 mana, a 2/3, that's still gonna do enough work. So don't count it out yet, and put it in as tier 3 as a decent filler card. Then we have Inspiring Captain for 4 mana. We get a 3/3. That's a pretty decent body for 4 mana.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Human Knight, not human. Oh well, actually human this time, not a soldier. I mean, when Inspiring Captain enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+1 until the end of turn. So that is, sure, it's a sorcery speed effect that comes in, but remember that it's attached to this 3/3 body, and if you got a lot of 1/1 flyers, you can still get through, deal some damage, and it's not like that was just a sorcery, then it's still, you got that 3/3 creature for 4 mana. So I'm actually really happy with that. If I'm in white, I'm definitely playing it, and I'm looking forward to playing that as a tier 2 card.
Yeah, it just does something when it comes in, and it stays as a 3/3 body, so...
Sweet.
So the next one is
Apothecary
Geist. It's a 3 and a white spirit, and it's a 2/3 with flying. But when it comes into play, you get 3 life, but only if you have another spirit. So it's a 2/3 flying for 4 mana. It's not that great, but if you need flyers, so I would say tier 3.
Yeah, well, I always want flyers, so I just throw this thing in my deck. However, that's probably not wise. Just look to see if you got better stuff first and save this as your filler card. You may think, oh, I want to build around spirit. There are lots of spirits. If you have it, that 3 life is nice, but I wouldn't bend over backwards to try and get extra spirits in there just for this effect. Just a 2/3 that can fly and is going to be able to do damage with evasion is plenty. Then we have Inquisitors Ox for 4 mana. We get a 2/5. This Ox has got a big butt, and I like that about it. It's also got Delirium, so when we've got those 4 different types of cards in our graveyard, then this will activate. It says that it gets +1/+0 and Vigilance as long as it has a Delirium. So then it would become a 3/5 with Vigilance. I guess it's pretty good. What do you think?
I would like to play this slower decks, but like it's a 2/5, so it blocks for days, and it becomes a 3/5 with Vigilance, so
yeah,
it can actually attack.
Yeah. I guess that's not bad. I guess I would play it as only as a filler because it's tier 3. So if I'm missing that 4-drop position, I would chuck that in there.
Yeah.
Not unlike Emissary of the Sleepless. For 5 mana, we get a 2/4 Flying Spirit. By the way, that sound that you hear, that is whenever we review a card that my cat has decided should not be put into any deck for any reason, then you hear the scratching at the door that's been put in there. As you hear, this card definitely should not be included, but I definitely think it's tier 3, and I'll explain why. For 2/4, it's a flyer, and when he enters the battlefield, if a creature died this turn, put a 1/1 white flying creature token onto the battlefield. So you're of course going to cast this after combat. When you've sacrificed something in combat, some stuff has died, you've got a 2/4 and a 1/1 flyer. I would play as filler, but I wouldn't go into white for it.
Yeah, what you said, it's not that great, but it's a 2/4 and a 1/1.
So you play it, right?
Yeah, I try to, but I mean, tier 3.
Tier 3. Well, see, you hear that, cat? It's going in the deck. All right, those are the common cards. Now we're gonna have a look at the uncommon cards.
The first of the commons is Griff's Boon. It's 1 white, enchantment aura, enchanted creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+0 and has flying. But for 3 and a white, you can return Griff's Boon from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to target creature, but only as a sorcery. So David, I think it's a really good card.
I think you're lying. I think you think it's a terrible card because it's a terrible card, and also because we put in the show notes that it's a terrible card, and I'm reading it again now, and I can see again that it's a terrible card.
Okay, maybe I'm lying. I mean, you won't get 2 for 1 because you can't get it back.
For 4 mana?
Okay, 4 mana is a bit too much.
A bit too much. That is highway robbery in the Magic world. Highway robbery.
Give me your mana.
Exactly. This is at knife point. No, don't waste your mana on Griff's Boon. I would say just put that card aside. Right?
Yeah, put it aside.
Yeah. The next card we have is Toppled Geist. For a mana, we get a 1/1 flyer. Now, normally we don't like to play 1/1 flyers for 1. However, Toppled Geist has a special ability that when it enters the battlefield, we can tap a target creature an opponent controls. That means early on in the game we can use it to attack. Later on in the game, it's still not useless because it comes in, we can tap something, and then we can attack without it being able to block. And on top of that, it also has Delirium. So when we have those 4 different card types in our graveyard, we get to do this at the beginning of our opponent's upkeep every single time. That is going to be quite handy.
Yeah, I mean, tapping something every turn without doing anything. Just put a 1/1 on the table and be delirious.
Well, yeah, you gotta be delirious for it, but other than that, it's pretty good, and it's beautiful art as well. Look at him just lighting those candles.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
So at tier 3.
Yeah, tier 3. Yeah. So if you're in white, see it as a good little filler card.
Yeah. So the next one, Not Forgotten. 1 and a white sorcery. Put a card from graveyard on top or the bottom of its own library. But you can also get a 1/1 flyer.
Yay, a 1/1 flyer for 2 mana. We're not happy playing a 1/1 flyer for 1, let alone paying 2 mana for this. I think it's terrible.
But you can put something on top or the bottom.
I don't think that is going to be something that's going to be super relevant because it's not actually getting you any advantage in card drawing or anything like that. You have to have something super good for it to be good, so it's so situational, plus you're paying too much. I think this says Not Forgotten. I think this card will be forgotten, and that's why I would like to put it aside.
Put it aside,
yeah. Let's go to the next card, and here is Machinations. For a generic and a white, we get an enchantment that says that at the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gains indestructible until the end of the turn. That's pretty awesome. And then for a generic and a red, we get to deal 1 point of damage to target a blocking creature. So you may think, okay, this is crazy. Every turn, indestructible, I can attack, I can do whatever I want. If they block me, I get to pump all my mana in there, deal all this damage to the blocking creature. I'm going to win this game, no problem. However, we have to remember, it's not all roses, because for 2 mana, this enchantment comes into play. It still doesn't do anything until, again, it becomes your turn. Then one of your creatures become indestructible. But that creature, you have to say it at the beginning of your combat, which means your opponent knows which creature has indestructible. They can play around it. And additionally, they know that you can deal 1 point of damage to a blocking creature if you ever have your mana open, so they're also going to be able to play around that. So it's not going to be Magical Christmas Land. They're going to play around all of this. They can see it. It's not a combat trick or anything like that. It makes blocking for them a little bit more awkward, but they can play around it, so they won't get a blowout. I would say, cool little filler card if you are in red and you are in white, but other than that, then if I'm not on those cards, I would put it aside.
And most cards are small creatures in black, in white and red. So, I mean, indestructible, just let it through.
Just let it through, exactly.
So the next one, Open the Armory. 1 and a white, sorcery. Search your library for an aura or an equipment and put it in your hand. So, what do you think about it?
I think that even if it would say aura or enchantment or equipment card, I still wouldn't be happy with this. Why? Or even if it said, and also Planeswalker, I still wouldn't be happy with this because you're not going to be searching for those awesome equipment that are in this deck. Because you're not, because there's not. In this set, the equipment is just not that great, and the auras are not that great. You don't want to be 2-for-1ing yourself either, especially 3-for-1ing if you're also spending a card to look for that enchantment. I would never play this. I'm not happy seeing it. I would put it aside.
Yeah, but you said searching for a Planeswalker. I would like to search for a Planeswalker, If it's a Planeswalker, I would play it.
But you still need to have the Planeswalker in your draft or your sealed pool, and just the odds of that are so tiny.
But searching for Planeswalkers though.
Okay, even if I would give you that, it still doesn't say search for Planeswalker, so it's a moot point. It's a terrible card.
Okay, let's put it aside then.
Let's put it aside. Next card, we have Paranoid Parrish Blade for 2 generic and a white. So for 3 mana, we get a 3/2. I'm pretty happy with that. Human Soldier. And it has Delirium. So that means, of course, when we have those 4 cards, it gets +1/+0 and has first strike. So it becomes a 4/2 with first strike. Now that is going to be able to destroy a lot of creatures when attacking and be able to destroy a lot of creatures when blocking. I'm actually really happy with this guy just as a 3/2 for 3. So if I'm in white, I would automatically include it. That means it's tier 2.
Yeah. I mean, for 2 first strike, what more do you want?
I would probably want more, but if I'm getting this, I'm still happy.
Price of Angel is the next one. 2 and a white. It's a human cleric, a 2/2, and whenever he enters the battlefield or another creature enters the battlefield, you get 1 life. It's only for 1 you control, so it's not that great, but 2 and a 2 tap, sacrifice another permanent, and it transforms. It transforms into Wayward Disciple. It's a black card. It's also a human cleric, a 2/4, and whenever he dies or another creature you control dies, the target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life.
Yeah, this card should be called the Transforms into Pointless Disciple because it may seem like that life swing is very powerful, but remember, your stuff has to die for this to happen. So you are losing board presence. Sure, you may be gaining a life and they may be losing a life, but that is not going to win you the game when they are swarming the board and you are losing all your creatures. On top of that, to be able to even transform it into Pointless Disciple, we have to sacrifice a permanent. So we have to play this guy, sacrifice a permanent. No, just no.
And you have to put 2 mana in there and
also,
wait.
that is,
Because it has to tap.
I would rather put that 2 mana into one of my clues and drawing a card. Tell you the truth.
Clues.
Clues are great. Alright, so that's, I'm gonna put it aside.
Yeah, put it aside.
Don't try and make it work. Alright, next card we have is Bound by Moonsilver for 3 mana, so 2 generic and a white. It's an aura with enchant a creature. That creature can't attack, can't block, or can't transform, and can't transform. And we can sacrifice another permanent and move this aura onto another threat. So I actually think this is really good. If I'm in white, I would definitely include this because this is really good unconditional removal. It stops our opponent's biggest threat from being able to attack or transform or block. And on top of that, if something even more nasty comes on, we get to move it onto that. Sure, we have to sacrifice something, but later on in the game, we probably have too much land anyway. We just sacrifice one of those, we move it, and then we're super happy that that new threat has been contained. What do you think?
Yeah, most pacifisms are like 2 mana.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, it's a good card. But they can also still activate their abilities.
That's true. They can still activate their abilities. However, we haven't seen too many abilities that are game-breaking, at least not in white so far. So I would say, you know what? Just tier 2. Auto-include in white.
Tier 2.
Yeah.
So the next one, Spectral Shepherd. It's a 2 and a white. It's a spirit, a 2/2 flying, but for 1 and a white, for 1 and a blue, return target spirit you control to its owner hand. So it can protect itself, it can protect other spirits. So it's a 2 flying for 3. Auto include, I guess.
Yeah. Claiming the obvious of being a 2/2 flyer for 3 is actually huge. I really enjoy playing cards like these because on turn 3, being able to put this guy with an evading on an evasion body is going to be able to do a lot of damage over the course of the game. And being able, if you're in white and you're in blue, then I say tier 2. That rhymes. Auto include. That doesn't rhyme, but you still should do it. Because if you're in those 2 colors, this card is going to do a lot of work for you, protecting itself or maybe even protecting another one of your spirits. Don't try and protect your spirit tokens because you're gonna return it to your hand and then it's gonna disappear and they're gonna make you sad. So don't do that. Then the next card we have is Hope Against Hope for 2 generic and a white. So for 3 mana we have an aura. When we enchant a creature, it gets +1/+1 for each creature you control. And as long as the creature is human, the enchanted creature is human, it gets first strike. Well, you may think, oh, that's so awesome. When I have like 1,000 creatures, then this thing's gonna be 1,000 first strike, I'm gonna win the game. Oh, wait a minute. If you already have 1,000 creatures, you're already winning the game. So this is going to be a win more, and it's not going to change. If you've got a 1-1 and you need to turn the game around, you pop this on and you think, oh my god, yes, it's now a 2-2. It happens to be a human, so it also has first strike. I just paid whatever the creature cost plus 3 mana to get a 2-2 with first strike. You know what? And then they're going to destroy that, and then you're going to be crying. So please don't do that. Put that card aside, unless Stefan says something different.
No.
All right,
I'm fine with
just
this.
Put it aside.
Abyssinian Mercenaries. For 3 and a white, a human cleric, a 3-3. So it's 4 mana 3-3, but at the beginning of the upkeep, end step. If Abyssinian Mercenaries is equipped, it gets transformed.
Pretty nice.
So it transforms into Malignant Inquisitors. A human cleric, a 4-4 now, but whenever it transforms, you can exile to another creature, and whenever the Malignant Inquisitors leaves the battlefield, it comes back.
Yeah, so pretty much just a 3-3 for 4 mana is okay. I'm gonna say tier 3 already just for that. If I'm in white, just and you're missing your 4-drop, just include it. Getting it to transform is gonna be pretty tricky because I don't think we have a lot of really great equipment.
We
cards.
don't have that many great equipments.
No.
But I mean, it's white. They want to do something with equipments.
No, you want to do something with equipment. I don't think I want to do anything with these equipment that we got in this set. So for me, it's gonna be a pain to try and get this thing to flip. Sure, if it flips, it gets all buffed up. It becomes a 4-4, and on top of it, you get to exile a creature. That's huge. But I think the hoops that you got to jump through to get this to work, I think, is gonna be too much to make it worthwhile. So just for the 3-3 body for 4, okay, don't try and make this work unless you've got all the pieces of the puzzle, and I think that's gonna be pretty tricky to get.
Yeah, so at tier 3, I mean, it's fun if you have fun equipment, a nice equipment, but don't
count on it. No,
exactly.
Next card we have is near Heath Chaplain for 3 generic and a white. So 4 we get a 3/1 lifelinker. Okay, that's a lot of mana for a 3/1 lifelinker. On top of that, when it's dead, we can pay 2 and a white and then exile it to put 2 1/1 flying spirit tokens onto the battlefield. We can only do this anytime we can cast a sorcery, so it's sorcery speed. Now let that just sink in for a moment. We're paying 4 mana, actually 4, and then it's 5, 6. We're paying 7 mana for a 3/1 and another 1/1 and another 1/1. So we're paying for all that mana for 3 toughness basically. This creature is going to attack. It's going to die. It's going to die to everything. You're going to gain 3 life. Yay, you got your 3 life. Not going to make much of a difference. And you're going to say, okay, then I still need to pay another 3 mana, which I can't do instant speed, so I can't even do it for blocking shenanigans. And then I've got 2 1/1 flying chump blockers. I mean, that is just not going to win you any games. I'd be sad to see this in my hand. However, if you still need a 4-drop, yeah, well, you could shimmy it in there, but don't expect any miracles from it.
Exactly. I mean, if you could discard it or anything, you get two 1/1 flyers out of it. But for the rest, it's just too expensive.
It's just too expensive for you, that's correct.
So the next one, Silver Strike. 3 and a white, instant, destroy the target attacking creature, and then you gain 3 life. So that's actually pretty nice. I mean, I would like to play this.
I would say this is definitely tier 2 for me. If I'm in white, I'm definitely playing this. Why? Because we want to destroy those
anything that attacks.
Yeah, anything that I was going to say, those creatures. But yeah, of course, there's going to be creatures that are going to be attacking us. Those are going to be the threats, and you can save it for something really, really juicy because it's going to kill. It doesn't matter how tough that thing is, it's going to die. You get the 3 life. I don't really care about that. But still, that thing is dead and gone, and that is huge. Pretty much unconditional, well, semi-conditional removal because they do need to attack with it, but anything that's going to be killing you is going to be attacking you anyway.
Exactly.
Then we have Tenacity for 4 mana, 2 generic and a white. We get an instant.
3 generic.
Sorry, 3 generic and a white. It's an instant. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain lifelink until the end of turn. Untap those creatures. Now, the fact that your creature get +1/+1 to the end of turn is nice because it's instant speed, so you're going to be able to do some nice blowouts with blocking. The lifelink is pretty nice because unlike gaining 3 life, when all your creatures have lifelink, you're going to get a huge lifelink bonus, and that is going to make a difference. And lastly, and that is also huge, you get to untap those creatures, which means that it either gives them pseudo-vigilance when you are attacking, or on the defense when people attack into you, when they think you can't block anything, all of a sudden all your guys are ready to block, and they're bigger, and they got lifelink, and you're going to be able to do amazing things with that and probably turn the game around. So I would say if I'm in white, definitely play it as tier 2.
Yeah, tier 2. So the next one, Humble the Brute. 4 and a white, instant. Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. And it has Investigate. So we get another clue. For 2 mana, we can sacrifice it for another card.
Yeah, it's pretty nice, right?
Yeah, I mean, tier 2, I mean, it's removal, so what more do you want?
Yeah.
I mean, unconditional, but still.
Well, I mean, it is semi-conditional because the creature has to be power 4 or greater.
Yeah.
But then once again, those are the things we want gone. If it's going to be a 2/2 flyer, it's going to be annoying, but this is going to be the card that's going to get rid of the big threats.
Exactly.
Top of the Investigate, which means, of course, for another 2 mana, we can sacrifice that clue, get another card. It's actually, I would definitely play tier 2.
Yeah.
Tier 2, absolutely. Then we have a Reaper of Flight Moonsilver, and that is for 5 mana, 2 of which have to be white. We get a 3/3 Flying Angel. That is already not too bad, a 3/3 flyer for 5 mana. Nothing to write home about, of course. However, with Delirium, so when you have those 4 different card types in your graveyard, we get to sacrifice another creature, and then this guy gets +2/+1 until the end of turn. You can do this as many times as you want, so you could attack, and when you do have Delirium, you could sack your entire team if this angel gets through, and then you could do a ton of damage. But once again, remember, that's only if this guy gets through, that's only if you've got Delirium, and that's only if you've also got a lot of other creatures which you can use sacrifice, and in that case, you're probably already winning the game. Anyway, I would say not too great, not too excited, doesn't push me into white. If I am already in white and I want something for 5 mana, we can always put it in there, tier 3.
Yeah.
Nothing to add to that? Alright, well then I guess it's time to go to the rares. The first of our rares is Talia's Lieutenant. For a generic and a white, we get a 1/1 human soldier, and when this guy enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each other human you control. As we saw already, there's plenty of humans in this set, so you can definitely build around that if you want. And whenever another human enters the battlefield, under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Talia's Lieutenant. So it also starts to grow when you start to add. So all those extra humans will not go to waste. When she comes in, she makes, or he, I can't really see if it's a he or she.
I'm not sure.
Anyway, he or she comes in, pumps the rest. Otherwise, the other way around, that's also okay. Then he or she gets pumped. This card gets pumped. I wouldn't play white if I drew just this card. It doesn't pull me into white, but if I am already in white, then I'm definitely going to include it. So that means that it's tier 2.
Yeah, and the next one, Hanwen Militia Captain. It's a 1 and a white, human soldier, another human, a 2/2. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 4 more creatures, transform Hanwen Militia Captain. And transformed, it's called Westville Cult Leader. So a Militia Captain transformed to Cult Leader.
Possible.
It becomes a human cleric status soldier, and it has XX, which is the amount of power and toughness equal to any number of creatures you control. So it grows and more creatures you have.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of each end step, your end step, put a 1/1 black and white human cleric creature on the battlefield, which also works with the Lieutenant.
Yeah, this is actually, I really like this card a lot. If I pulled this card, I would definitely think about playing white. This card already pulls me into it, so that makes it tier 1. The beauty of it is that when you play it, a 2/2 for 2 is fine, that's already great. Then you're going to want to put creatures on the battlefield, and white has the ability to put multiple ones. Remember, token creatures also count to make sure that there's 4 or more creatures, and this Hanwen Militia Captain counts itself too, so you really only need 3 other creatures. Then it transforms. All of a sudden, then it's going to be at least a 4/4 because of the amount of creatures you've got. It's only going to start growing after that. Every turn it's going to put bodies on the battlefield. This card could win you the game just by itself.
It just does everything you want. More creatures, more power.
Awesome. The next card we have is Declaration in Stone. For a generic and a white. It's a sorcery, and states that we can exile target creature and all other creatures its controller controls with the same name as that creature. Then that player investigates, so puts down one of those clue tokens for each non-token creature exiled this way. So this is awesome, of course, for getting rid of your opponent's tokens, because you destroy all of them, they don't get any clues. But if somebody has a big, fat, ugly creature, that thing's got to go. Then Declaration in Stone allows us to exile that huge threat, and of course they get a nice little clue for their troubles. And of course Stefan would be very happy with that clue because he loves those. But I would also just be very happy that I got rid of that extremely nasty thing and it's got exiled. So this actually pulls me into white, so I would say tier 1.
Yeah, it's a card that even though you're not actually playing white, you want to look at it or at least try to play it.
Yeah, maybe even splash if you're not completely in it. Yeah,
exactly. So the next one, Bygone Bishop. 2 and a white. It's a Spirit Cleric, a 2/3 flying, and whenever you cast a creature spell with confirmed markers 3 or less, investigate. So for every small creature you get play, you get a clue.
Yeah, and white likes to play small creatures.
Exactly. And everyone likes clues.
Well, yeah, sure.
It's card draw. What do you want?
All in all, I would still say tier 2 if I'm in white. I'm definitely playing this card. Why? Because for 3 mana we get a 2/3 flyer already. That just by itself, and then later on in the game, even make sure that those small creatures that you needed at the beginning of the game still give you value later on in the game. And that's going to be huge, especially when the games run a little bit long, right?
Yeah, it just gives you extra value.
And always good, extra value. Then what's also always good is always watching. Well, it's not always true, but for 3 mana, 2 of which have to be white, we've got an enchantment. Non-token creatures you control get +1/+1 and have vigilance. Now this is, I think it's pretty nice because most of the creatures you're going to have are going to be creatures that are not tokens, because that's basically, you can't really build around it. In Constructed, this would be much stronger, I suppose. But still it gives the +1/+1 and vigilance. However, if you have just this and you have no creatures, it does nothing, and on the turn you played it also does nothing, so it doesn't excite me so much that I would automatically include it. But as a filler card, perhaps I would say tier 3.
Yeah, I mean, you also always want to play creatures, so it most of the time does something, but not always.
When it doesn't, it really hurts.
Yeah.
So be very careful. It seems very powerful, but it might be a win more card. You got to be careful about those cards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The next one, Eerie Interlude. 2 and a white, instant, exile any number of target creatures you control, but return those cards to the battlefield under the owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So you're gonna flicker the creatures you have and put them back in the end step. So it's a fun card, but it's not that great. So tier 3, because you can do stuff with it, enter battlefield triggers, protecting your creatures, but
again, if you have no creatures, it's gonna do very little for you, and yeah, you still need to have that 3 mana open as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can definitely be very strong, but it's not an auto include. Then we have a card that I would definitely include if I was in white. That's Audric Lunarch Marshal. For 3 generic and a white, we get a 3/3 creature, so the body for the mana is fine. At the beginning of each combat, so that's your combat and also your opponent's combat, creatures you control gain either First Strike, Death Touch, Flying, well, a whole list of abilities, and they get those if you already control creatures that already have those abilities. So if you have a creature with Double Strike and Death Touch, then all your creatures gain Double Strike and Death Touch on each beginning of combat. So that is actually super sweet, but that does mean that you do need to have the elements built around it to make it work. I would still include it anyway, just because it's a 3/3 for force in white with the potential for a very big upside. So I would say tier 2.
Yeah, especially because a lot of creatures have flying already in white. So
yeah,
everything gets flying.
That's actually a really good point. Yeah, good.
So the next one, Dogskull Cavalry. It's a 5 white. It's a Spirit Knight. It's a 4 for flying, and whenever another spirit enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 2 life. But for 4 mana, 3 and a white, put a 1/1 white spirit token on the battlefield. So it gives you life on itself and a 1/1 flyer.
Yeah, it's actually ridiculous because I think this card would so throw me into white immediately when I see it. You say, okay, it's 7 mana, but we're talking limited, so I might have a little bit more time, especially in sealed. We got especially a little bit more time there. I would say tier 1. This pushes me into seeing if I can make white work. Why? Because you got a 4/4 flyer, which is pretty much the biggest thing in the air, and you're going to be every turn after that, you're going to be putting down pretty much 2 1/1 white spirit tokens with flying, and you're going to be gaining 4 life, and that is going to bring you back from any terrible boards that you may have had before this. So definitely try and include this guy. That's tier 1. We go to the last rare.
So Angel of Deliverance, it's a 6 white. It's an angel, 6/6 flying, and has Delirium. And whenever she deals damage, if there's 4 more cards show Delirium, you can exile target creature and opponent controls.
Yeah, I mean, do we really need to say anything more about that's exiling a creature every turn it attacks? If you got this card, sure, you got to pay 8 mana, so it's going to take a while before it's online. But then again, it's a 6/6 flying. I mean, we thought 4/4 flying was big, so 6/6 flying is even bigger.
Yeah, so it will actually destroy a creature every turn. It will chomp or it will exile.
Yeah, most likely it won't be doing that because, well, okay, yeah, in that sense, either it'll be chomped.
Yeah.
Most likely that's how you're going to be killing creatures. But the potential, the fear that people will have that your Delirium might be activated at some point in time later on in the game could be a huge threat. It definitely puts me into white tier 1 for me.
Yeah, tier 1.
Awesome. Well, those are the rares. Let's have a look at the mythics. Our first mythic is so freaking amazing. It is Archangel Avacyn for 3 generic and 2 white. So for 5 mana, we get a 4/4 flyer with vigilance. On top of that, Archangel Avacyn has flash, and when you cast her with flash, or whenever you cast her and she enters the battlefield, all creatures you control are indestructible until the end of turn. So it's really cool because you can do it flash, you can do that instant speed during combat in your opponent's turn. He's not expecting it, he or she is not expecting it, comes in, all your stuff is indestructible. You can have amazing trades, and of course you can always also use her to block in combat, for example, as a 4/4 flyer. Then, and this is also extra cool, later on in the game when your stuff isn't indestructible and a non-angel creature you control dies, we get to transform Archangel of Avacyn. And Stefan, what happens then?
So she transforms the next upkeep that something dies, and it transforms to the red Avacyn, Avacyn the Purifier. And it's a 6/5 flying, and when she transforms, 3 damage to everything.
Oof. That is so rough to each other creature and each opponent. So she doesn't do it to herself. She is pissed. That's all I know. And she wanted to protect the people. She did her best, making everybody indestructible. She's fighting. Then all of a sudden, somebody tripped, fell on a log, died. It wasn't an angel because she doesn't care about those girls. And well, actually, it's all angels are all girls. Doesn't care about them. But wait a second, human fell down, hit his head, died. Avacyn loses it, dyes her wings red. Could be blood, that might be even worse. Probably dyed her wings red, and then just does 3 damage to everybody except herself, and that is gonna win you the game.
Yeah, not sure if she's pissed because someone tripped though, but yeah.
I make up my own stories as I go along, and I say a human tripped on a log, and that pissed her off because of the clumsiness.
Okay, that's why she has to purify
all the other people, so there's no more clumsy people on the planet. I think that's or on the plane. Yeah. Anyway, needless to say, you see this, you do a happy little dance, people think you're an idiot, you high five somebody, and it's tier 1.
Yeah, tier 1.
Alright.
So the next one, Descent Upon the Sinful. 4 white, sorcery, exile all creatures. But if you have Delirium, you get a 4/4 angel.
On top of that, that's adding insult to the damage. Well, yeah, they're not even injury. You're just exiling all these creatures. It is so nasty and definitely pushes me into white the second I see this.
Yeah, I would totally want to try to play white. I mean, it is such a good card. It's not even board wipe, you just get a 4/4 angel too.
Yeah, if you can manage to make sure you got that Delirium before that. So it might be a race against the clock. If you can't get that Delirium, doesn't matter, you still exiled everything. And then you get to start the game again basically on your terms. Those are our mythics. Let's have a look at the conclusion. So in conclusion, Stefan, what do you think about white?
It's a fun color. Like, small stuff, big stuff like everything, and equipment.
No, not equipments and no clues. Look, I think white is actually a really strong color in this set. It has a lot of good value things. Sure, with the clues, there's a lot of stuff with Investigate coming on, which gives you a lot of value. And it's also got really good removal on all levels of rarity, which I really enjoy. Plus, of course, once again, King of the Evasion has got plenty of flyers in there. It's got a lot of tokens, so you can go wide. It's got creatures that can go tall. It's actually got a lot of versatility, and I definitely would like to see this color as one of my 2 or maybe even 3 colors during a sealed or draft event, because it gives you so much versatility in the things that you might need at that point in time, which the other color can't provide. So it may not be the best, it may not have the biggest creatures, it may not have the most card draw, it may not have the biggest flyers, whatnot, but it can fill that gap that maybe the other color doesn't have.
Yeah, it helps you because white can do fast things, but as you can see with Evsin and the board wipe, it can also do slow stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. Like, it can fill up the gaps you're missing with another color.
Yeah, like it's got some stuff with big butts as well. So if you want to play a little bit lower, you got those 2/4s that can block. You got abilities for first strike. All in all, I am actually really excited about white. I think it's got a lot of good cards. I think the flavors and I think the art is amazing. It's got some really realistic.
Art in the real set.
Yeah,
this whole set. Yes.
Look at those cards again carefully. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Now we're gonna ask you guys to subscribe, because subscribing lets us know that you like these videos, you want to see more of these kind of videos, these kind of set reviews. We do other kinds of videos as well. Just subscribe, check that out. Lets us know that people are watching and that we should make more videos. On top of that, you can also join us on Twitter and on Facebook, because there we have conversations, we can exchange ideas, we can show some stuff that we just can't discuss here during the videos. And you can also now click on the annotations after here, because there's going to be more videos also for all the other colors coming up after this. So you make sure you check that out so you know what all the colors and also the multicolor spells and the artifacts and the lands. Well, I guess that's it. So thanks for watching. I'm David.
And I'm Stefan.
And this was Budget MTG Decks.